Hey, it's Rob Lightfoot, proud two-time alum of Rowan University.
And I'm Jessica Kennedy, also a two-time Rowan alum. And you're listening to
Beyond the Brown and Gold.
Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM presents Beyond the Brown and Gold, a show that highlights the lives and memories of Glassboro State and Rowan University alumni. Now, here are your hosts, Rob Lightfoot and Jessica Kennedy.
Hey, Jess, it's time to play your favorite game called Know Your Monmouth County.
Okay.
Because apparently that's what we did in this interview.
Quiz me.
I know. We talked to Sarah, and you guys were just going off on your Monmouth County stuff. I had no idea what you guys were talking about.
I know. Well, we both grew up in Monmouth County in a town called Howell, and I was really excited because we grew up in the same section, and that is just, I have met lots of alums from the Monmouth County area, but never one that was like from literally like a neighborhood away from mine. And we were only 2 years apart. So
Okay, and then she came here.
I know. So cool. Sara Rizzo. We had Sara Rizzo, a 2010 grad, on the show today. She's currently a assistant professor of systems and data services librarian at National Louis University in Chicago.
I love Chicago. I talked about it in the interview some, but I love Chicago.
I know. We should go. Why we talk about this every interview, how
We want to go somewhere.
Yeah, well,
She also,
when we're two people that didn't go anywhere after we graduated, we stayed like really close to home, but then we're like, we should have went there.
But I think her cooler part of the interview, and she kind of buries the lead here. I won't say where she went.
Yeah.
Let's just say she went international.
Yeah.
And that's part of her career choice, which is kind of a spot you would never imagine. So I think you're going to dig this interview with Sarah. Let's check it out.
Okay, Sarah, I'm really excited because I grew up in Monmouth County and I grew up in Howell, and I've interviewed lots of Monmouth County guests that I got super excited because I'm like, oh, I grew up in Howell, but I grew up in Ramtown.
Nice.
Yeah, so I see that is also where you grew up.
And I appreciate you not calling it Central Jersey, by the way.
Well, it is Central Jersey.
So.
It is Central Jersey. Let's not start.
Right.
Yeah.
But I've never talked to an alum that was literally from the Ramtown area. What section did you grow up in?
Parkside.
Oh, very cool. So we grew up like 3 minutes from
Where were
each
you?
other. I was in like off of Newton's Corner Road. I don't remember the development name, but yeah, I was right off Newton's Corner Road, and we are only 2 years difference in our bachelors. So we probably attended school at the same time and everything. All right, well, now that I told everybody where you're from.
Yeah. Well, she's not there now, but that's the main thing. So
Yeah. Tell us how you got to Rowan.
Well, I wanted to get away from home because I was like, I don't like New Jersey. Me. But I wanted to go to school for music. So I auditioned at a few schools in upstate New York and then also Rowan, just to do like a state school. And I really didn't want to go to Rutgers because it was so big and that's like where everybody was going. And when I came down for my audition at Rowan, I immediately fell in love. I studied flute. So the flute professor that I auditioned with, like she was amazing. And I was just like, I want to study with you. And I got in, and coincidentally, I did not tell my best friend I was applying to Rowan, but he also applied to Rowan. So we got to both go to Rowan together. So that was fun.
Were you in the band in Howell High School?
Yeah.
I was in the choir. So I used to sit in Mr. Kintahafa's office that he shared with
Mr. Lamaldi.
Oh my goodness, that's so wild.
She just cheesed up big time when she mentioned that name.
Yeah, definitely. When you have those musical high school experiences, they're, very informative for your time.
Sure.
But it sounds like you had a formative professor here that you worked with.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you do? So you studied music when you came in.
Yes, but it's interesting because as soon as I started college, music's very front loaded. So you take all your music classes first. So my freshman year was a little bit different than my other friends. And I immediately knew I did not want to be a music teacher. I was like, a future of hot cross buns for years to come is not for me.
It's a good jam that we all learn. When you start learning instruments, it's a very easy jam.
Yeah, so I didn't know what to do. And my professor was like, well, why don't you just keep taking music classes till you decide? I was like, all right, I'm having a good time. And I definitely like to read a lot. And I went to a major fair sophomore year, and I was talking to one of the English professors. So I wound up doing a double major in English. And I still didn't really know what I wanted to do for my career. And then my flute professor, she was like, why don't you consider librarianship? Like, it seems like you're always hanging out in the music library. You're always helping people with their, when they have a writing assignment, like looking stuff up. I was like, yeah, that's a good point. Why don't I do that? And then I started looking into it and I immediately fell in love with the idea. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a children's librarian. Like, I love reading with kids. I was in the Students for Literacy Club. I was the vice president at Rowan. So it just seemed like, oh yeah, this is a really good fit. So I applied for grad school. I wound up going to Rutgers for that. So I wound up at Rutgers in the end. Yeah, they have one of the best library programs in the country though. So it worked out, and it's in state. So all good. And then when I got to grad school, I was taking classes to be a children's librarian. And then I worked in the music library because I had a music background. So I did my work study there, and I got to catalog all this like sheet music from the 1800s, which was pretty cool because it was like people's like personal music, because obviously they didn't have CDs or anything. So people just had these like pop songs on the piano. And it was really cool because a lot of it came from the Kilmer family, and the dad of the Kilmer family worked at Johnson and Johnson's, and he's the reason that Johnson's and Johnson's has an archive, because he was very into preserving documents and things. So he donated all his family sheet music to Rutgers, and it just sat in a closet for years. And then we found it one day, so I got to go through and catalog it all. And it's cool because you can see like little handwritten notes, and it's like the same kind of notes I would put on my music, like breathe here, go back to the beginning. Some of them had like little love notes on them, which was cute.
I love music.
Yeah.
Just because the love notes part, is that what it is?
No, I feel like music is like a love language. Like, I feel like it's so much a part of your life. Like, come on, you can hear any song and go back to
Yeah,
the time.
absolutely. No, yes.
Right?
Yes. I thought you meant from like a performance standpoint.
I mean, that too, but
Okay.
I try not to think about that too much because then I get sad I'm not doing it anymore.
You keep saying that, but you can totally do it.
I know.
Sarah, tell her she can always learn an instrument. She's been saying that.
You can always learn an instrument, and you're at Rowan, so you could probably join concert band. There was community members.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Sarah.
I could join the choir. They do have a community choir, but
So why don't you do that?
because I've just got two humans at home and they require a lot of attention. So someday
bring
when
them
they're
with you.
bigger, I'm gonna
when they're bigger.
I'm gonna get back.
So Sarah, I'm curious because as somebody who doesn't know what even this looks like, to wrap your head around it, but when you were here and switching to, just be in a library program and stuff like that, like, were you really fully on board? Because I would be like, well, what is that like career-wise? What was that research for you, I guess?
So it's funny because when I was in high school, I worked at the library, like shelving books. Oh. And me and my friends, we thought being a librarian was like the stupidest job. We're like, who wants to do that? Like, you have to go to grad school for that. What a waste.
It's true though, right? But it's hard to wrap your head around what this actually looks like.
Yeah, like what the actual job entails and the knowledge involved.
Yeah, so grad school is a lot of learning information science and how humans look for information. So it's a lot of like information behaviors, how people look for things, or when they can't find what they're looking for, what they do instead. Indexing is a big thing. So how information is organized, because, things aren't magically in a database. Someone had to put them there and put a lot of thought into how they organize a database. I took classes on genre fiction, so doing a reader's advisory. So in a public library, if you're looking for a book to read for fun, I like this Emily Henry book. What would you recommend to me? What can I read next? So that kind of service.
I've never thought to ask a librarian that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I've never thought to be like, hey, can you help? Mostly I would think, from my limited library experience, that you would you get a lot of questions about like, where do I find things? But I would never even think like recommendations and like parallel books, like that would even be something I could ask.
Yeah, reference questions, because people often aren't asking. They'll ask a question, but they don't actually know what they're looking for. They just think they know. So kind of crafting like, how do you get users what they actually need, not what they think they need. And then there's a lot of like technology too. So, taking web development courses, database, how to build databases and things like that, informatics.
And when you were doing these classes, so like you said when you were in the music program, you started to see that wasn't your future. When you started to do these classes, did this start to become clear for you that this was the path that you want to go down then?
Okay, that's
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty clear while I was at Rowan because when I was applying to grad school, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I graduate if I don't get into grad school. Like, I have no backup plan. I guess I'll be a fisherman. I don't know.
Would you
But
like to
thankfully
fish?
I got in. No,
Oh.
I did some research and I was like, yeah, it'll be a tough life, but there's jobs. It was 2009, so it was like right after the financial crisis. So it was, weighed heavily on everyone. Like, what are we going to do when we graduate? So to me, I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. But thankfully, grad school worked out.
Talk to us a little bit more about your time here at Rowan and what you found yourself doing, for fun while you were here.
Fun. A lot of like just being in the music building and practicing at all hours. People are like, why do you have a music degree? And I'm like, because I pay attention to detail and I can perform tedious, repetitive tasks really well. But yeah, so a lot of just like moving around in the music building, because everybody's there practicing at all hours. And then hanging out at, what was those apartment buildings? Mansion. They've torn it
that's a
down
mansion.
since. It was a sad day. My friends were the last group to live in the apartments when they tore it down.
So you went to graduate school at Rutgers, and that's kind of where you knew for sure that you wanted to do librarian stuff full time for your gig. So take us to post-grad school and what your journey looked like when you wrapped that degree up.
When I finished grad school in 2012, Libraryland was still, so when I started grad school, there was this promise that there's going to be all these library jobs, all these librarians are retiring. What a great time it will be to get into libraries. But because of the financial crisis and lots of budget cuts to towns, are you going to cut your fire and police, or are you going to cut the library's budget? Going to cut the library's budget. So there were not as many jobs as promised. But I was okay with leaving New Jersey and coming back. And that's what my advisor told me to do. She was like, if you leave New Jersey, go work at a small library. You'll get so much more experience and it'll be so much easier to come back and get the job you want. So I had been looking at jobs in like Ohio. I applied for 2 in Alaska. I had some interviews. And then one professor posted a job in Kazakhstan. And I was like, that's not much further than Alaska. So I applied. And I got that job. So off I went to Astana, Kazakhstan to work at a new university in a new city, which is a very strange concept, but here we are.
New city, what does that even mean?
How do you do this? Like some people won't leave
New Jersey.
That's what I'm saying. And you're going to Kazakhstan.
I needed a job.
Really
wanted to be a librarian.
I know, but you can't buy some time at a Starbucks or something like that and put a green smock on for a bit, huh?
I was working at Barnes and Noble and in the cafe. So
Say, look.
She only proudly served Starbucks. Yeah. She didn't have to wear the green.
the
green
mermaid.
Stuff. Yeah.
So tell us about that experience, because that's light years away. I don't know where Kazakhstan is. You had to ask me.
I'm terrible at geography.
It's not near Pittman. I know that. That's about it.
It's in Central Asia, so Russia is along the top and China is bordering it.
I feel like you're describing this so other people have asked you the same question.
You're not the first person to ask. Yeah, so I was a librarian. My job wasn't the best, but I made a lot of great friends over there. And it was kind of like being in college again, because all the faculty lived on campus. We all lived together on campus in these it was like being in a dorm again, because, after work, you'd go over to the faculty apartment building, and people would have their doors open in the hallway, and you'd walk in and someone would have Mario Kart on the TV.
That sounds like
someone would be cooking, and I'm like, oh, I feel like I walked back in time.
I think maybe Jess and I want to go to Kazakhstan.
Now, were there a lot of folks there internationally? Was it very diverse in that way?
So the university I worked at was part of a program that the president had started that, I don't know if you've heard of, they have NYU in Dubai and Georgetown in Abu Dhabi and things like that. So they wanted this university, but they wanted to own it rather than have it be this Western school owning it. So what they did was they built this like national college and research center, and they partnered with different universities around the world for each of the departments. So for humanities, they partnered with Wisconsin-Madison. For engineering, they partnered with Colorado School of Mining, things like partnerships like that. But it was still, so it was international. The language of instruction was English, but it was this, had this very strong Kazakh identity. All the students learned Kazakh, so everything had to be in 3 languages.
Yeah.
So we
Wow.
make an announcement, you have to put it in English, Russian, and Kazakh, because the country is bilingual. So the official languages of Kazakhstan are Russian and Kazakh.
I didn't. Did you learn the language and such?
So I studied Russian in high school and at Rowan.
Of course you did.
How convenient.
Yeah, that was part of the reason I was okay with going to Kazakhstan, because I was like, well, I can read Cyrillic and I know a little bit of Russian. So yeah, so I wound up taking like independent Russian lessons with someone while I was over there. And I lived off campus because the library were not faculty. So I had to find my own apartment and everything. So you get much more immersive experience doing that. Like there was a vegetable stand I used to buy like my vegetables and fruit from, and the woman who worked there got annoyed with me pointing at things. And she's like, no, you're going to learn what these are called. Otherwise I'm not giving them to you.
Oh, wow.
But she would always save like the good things for me, like the best strawberries or the best cucumbers. So it was good.
I like the Russian language. I think it's like I don't know, it's a very cool language, I think. Now, how long were you in Kazakhstan for?
Exactly 2 years.
Okay, so what was the reason that you decided to move on from that position, and where did you go?
Well, it's a long winter. It's 9 months. It gets down
Oh.
to minus 40.
That sounds amazing.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, it's
Sounds
only
weird.
minus 40 for like a week. But it's cold. It's dark for like a week. But it's cold. It's dark.
do they expect
Like there's
students to go to class when it's minus 40?
yes.
Oh,
You
okay.
just bundle up.
Yeah, wow.
That's
But the
awful.
kid, like little kids don't go to school because it gets too, like you get these wind advisories because it's on the step. So there's nothing to like block the winds because
Okay.
it's just this empty grassland. So when we get wind advisories, it's very strong. So they'll keep small children at home and stuff so they don't get hurt in the wind.
Wow.
But
Get
yeah, you
lifted
don't want to
up.
go very far when it's that
Did you
cold.
say they get lifted up?
No, well, maybe they're small. They might
Like
get
30 pounds are going to blow away like a leaf.
maybe. I mean, that is a
Maybe,
fear
I don't know.
I would
I
have.
mean, it gets rough out there when it's really windy.
So was the weather that chased you away, or was it a different opportunity, or you just had that
No,
season
I
came
was
and went?
kind of ready to go home. The job was hard and I was just ready. I missed my family. I kind of was like, oh, I kind of want to start my own family too. So I think I'm going to move back. It was just time. A lot of faculty that I was friends with were leaving. So I came back to the US, to my parents' house in Rantown. And I expected to be unemployed for 6 months, but then as soon as I got home, there was a job at Caldwell University in North Jersey, and it was exactly my skill set, and they needed someone immediately. And what I do is kind of a niche area in libraries. So I do electronic resource management and systems. And so it's not something a lot of librarians know how to do. It's kind of, I learned it while I was in Kazakhstan, trial by fire. They're like, here, fix this server, put it back together, make all the
Okay.
e-resources work. I was like, okay. So I called while they needed someone to do that. So that worked out really great because they're like, can you start like ASAP? And I was like, yes. So I got to go live in North Jersey for 2 years.
Wait, can I
Uh,
ask a question? So obviously, like there's like a scientific side of what you're doing. Like I almost think like when you're saying things like engineering and computer science, and would you say that that's like an accurate representation of like the technical things that you're doing? Like it kind of would fit in those categories? Because I feel like when
um,
you're saying managing systems, I'm like, oh gosh, that sounds so.
yeah, it's
Stressful.
kind of IT for the library, I guess I would say. So it's like
Okay.
making all the different systems talk to each other correctly, and
Now that's a concept we could all use.
Mhm. Yeah.
and also like when students are looking for something, my main job is to make it accessible, available, and discoverable. So if the university buys a journal, it's not any good if that journal's just out in left field. Like, you need to be able to find it and be able to access it from anywhere. And that doesn't happen on its own. Someone has to work behind the scenes to kind of make all the links work correctly. So that's kind of what I do.
So you were at Caldwell for how long were you there for?
I was there for 2 years, and then I was ready to move on. And a systems job came up at Monmouth University. It's funny, I was like, oh, full circle, I'm back in Monmouth County.
Mm-hmm.
So I was living in Deal briefly.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. That's a cute area.
Yeah, so it was nice because I would ride my bike to work. So I was like 2 miles from the library, 2 miles from Asbury, 2 miles from the beach. That was great. And what's cool at Monmouth is it's all really historical buildings. So like I worked in the Guggenheim summer home, which is like basically a mansion. And
Yeah.
like the main building at Monmouth is Woodrow Wilson's summer home, which is
It's the one where
crazy.
Annie was filmed, right?
Yeah.
Look at you know your.
I have my Monmouth County knowledge in my brain.
Yeah. And it's funny because I took that job not knowing everything that was required for the position. I was like, I know half of this, so I'm going to apply and see what happens. And this is why I tell a lot of my students, I'm like, it's a wish list.
Mhm.
They're not expecting to find someone who meets all these qualifications. So if you meet most of them, just apply and you'll figure out what you don't know. And that's actually what happened with this when I had my first review, because you have to put together, because I was faculty, so you got to put together this big packet of why they should keep you. One thing they said was like, well, you didn't have all the skills we wanted, but you seemed the most willing to learn. And I picked it up pretty quickly. And that's where I really found my niche, was doing the systems work, the more IT side of libraries. And that's also eventually how I met my partner and wound up out in Illinois.
Yeah, tell us about Illinois. What you doing in
Yeah.
Illinois these days?
The same job. So while I was at Monmouth, I was managing this piece of library software, and no one else in New Jersey was using it at the time. So I got sent to a user group meeting for other people who use this piece of software, and it was in Orlando in 2018, and someone was like, oh, I want to go check out some breweries in the area, so if you want to go, like, meet me here at 5 o'clock. And I was like, okay. So I went, and the only other person there is my now partner,
Wow.
Alex.
That seems like it
we
might
just
have been a
hit it off.
setup. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just hit it off right away. We're like attached at the hip the whole conference. And then our gates were actually next to each other at the airport because he was going back to Chicago and I was going back to New Jersey. And he was like looking at flights to New Jersey. I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm never going to see you again. But he came and visited me.
Wow.
And the benefit of dating him too was like, if I had a question about how something worked with the software, I could call him at work, and like after work, I'd be like, excuse me, that's a work question. I'm not on the clock right now, so you'll have to call me tomorrow.
This is a little meet cute at the airport looking up flights for New Jersey. I love it.
Yeah. So we did the long distance thing for a year. Then we broke up because he didn't want to move and I didn't want to move. And we were kind of at the standstill of like, well, I'm staying here. But then we were both just like really sad and miserable. And the last date I went on with someone else, I was just texting him the whole time. I was like, oh, this would be so much better if you were
Oh,
here.
dang. That guy didn't stand a chance.
So he finally started looking at jobs in New Jersey. And I think that was all I really needed, was just for him to like kind of make an effort.
Yeah.
And I knew I couldn't live in Deal forever by the ocean. I mean, the cost of living is so much more expensive in New Jersey. So I started looking at jobs in the Chicago area, and there were 3 jobs available that are exactly what I do, which is, I felt like it was a big sign. And one of them was a super easy commute, and it's where I work now. And I work across the street from the Bean and Millennium Park, like I'm right downtown. So it seemed like, well, I guess 3 jobs open as a sign, and one of them is like a really easy train ride. I guess it's a sign. And when my family met him the first time, they were like, when you moving to Chicago? And I was like, I'm not.
Oh,
And
wow.
they're like, no, you're going.
Yeah.
I love Chicago. Have you ever been?
I've not been to
Oh my
Chicago.
gosh. So at my last job, when I first got on there. This is a million years ago now. But when I first got there, they said, hey, we're sending you to a conference in like 2 weeks. I just got there. I was like, all right, I know what I'm doing. It's in Chicago. I'd never been there. So here I am, roaming Chicago by myself for the first time for I think it was a full week back then. Phenomenal city. Like we stayed.
Was it cold? I feel like that's all I ever hear.
No, it was like in the springtime. So it was like
wasn't as cold as Kazakhstan.
No, yeah, it wasn't Kazakhstan cold.
Yeah.
But right near the Magnificent Mile, I was going on runs along the water, and just the way that city's laid out, it's like a bigger version of Philly, but a smaller version of New York. So it's like the perfect size to navigate. And the jazz scene out there, if you like Rush Street, has a bunch of cool clubs and stuff like that I went to. So
well, with your music background, Sarah, do you check out the music scene in Chicago much?
I just started to like the last couple of months. So our goal this year is to just go to a concert every month. So we've been seeing some good shows. So it's been fun.
Oh, I love that.
Yaz flute. We have to put that in there for Chris.
Yaz flute?
Yeah. It's from Ron Burgundy, Anchorman.
I don't have a clue what that is. Okay.
I see one movie and make one reference and nobody gets it. It's terrible. You sound like somebody who is not afraid to kind of just pick up and go. Are we growing roots in Chicago here?
Sadly, yes. No, it's fine. No, I'm definitely here for the long haul. I think, we have a house, got our backyard critters. So, it's nice. We have roots here. And my partner's just lived here his whole life. He grew up in Manhattan, Illinois.
Wow.
The tiniest apple. Yeah, I think we're here to stay. I love my job and I have a lot of flexibility. So I get to go home to New Jersey 2-3 times a year. During COVID, I was able to go home for a month, which was really nice, and spend time with my family. And the cost of living is so cheap that it makes it easy for us to like save and be able to like go travel and visit my family and things like that. And it's not a terrible drive back to the East Coast. It's like 12 hours. So with 2 people driving, it goes by pretty quick.
Do you drive? Do you like to fly? Are you anti-flying? Well, no, because you flew home from that conference.
Oh, she went to Kazakhstan. She can't drive. That'd be a long commute underwater.
Well, if you have 2 people, it's just more cost efficient to drive than to try to fly out. I fly sometimes if it's just me.
So now I'm curious, so you started out as someone who loves to read, and now you're in a library all day.
Yeah, so you just read books all day?
Do you just read books? Are you tired of reading now? Now do you want to watch some sort of media?
My goodness, the biggest insult. Do you read all day? No, I have a job. I work.
Listen, I just busted my husband's chops. I'm like, you just play PlayStation. He's like, I do not. I'm like, I know. I'm just busting your chops.
So do you like books still, or you're surrounded by them?
I
Okay.
love books. Yeah,
Okay.
no. I mean, I don't have a lot of books. Like, I'm not attached to books as this like precious thing. So the only books in our house are cookbooks because we're both librarians. So we're around books all day. We don't need our home with lots of books.
Because it's almost like I just wonder if it's like the guys who mean well, the guys or gals who mean well and start a tribute band for their favorite band, and then you realize, oh no, we're gonna ruin this. You know what I mean? Like as much as I love Dave Matthews Band, you start to be in a tribute band where you're playing only Dave Matthews Band for the entire, every night you start to get sick of them. I didn't know if like that was the case for you.
What I do is so removed from what I do for fun. Like, I think that's why I initially didn't want to do a career in music, because I would have fun playing, but I just didn't have that kind of real drive to be like, this is my career. This is all I want to do. I wanted it to stay fun. So I was more into just playing in bands, and like I played in community bands until I moved out here. That's like another goal for this year is to find another band to play in.
We have a marching band here at Rowan now.
Sorry. Oh wow.
Yes, we do. Yes, we got a marching
cool.
band. 130 students or something.
Yeah, and I think Dean Dahmers was saying they're looking to get to like 150 in the next year or 2.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Pretty cool. Now, do you ever, just because I'm obsessed with the fact that we both grew up in Ramtown, do you ever talk to your high school band teacher?
Actually, we tried to organize instead of like a high school reunion, a marching band reunion a couple of years ago, and I am so sad it fell through.
That's a bummer.
I have run into him once or twice because he also is in Ramtown.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I used to sit in Mr. Kantafa's office, so that shared space. I was very dramatic in high school, so I used to sit in that space. And I loved the band teacher because he was kind of like sassy a little bit. And he would like, I don't know. It was just he had a fun personality. Like he just was like cranky, but fun cranky.
All right. That's fun. Yeah.
So I enjoyed I enjoyed poking that bear
That's all right.
on the daily.
That's probably what he wanted.
Yeah.
Right? You probably gave him a little.
Yeah, he'd be like, "Oh, or two, so you're in this office again?"
Oh my gosh.
I'd be like, "Yup."
Derek said that a lot.
Yeah, Derek said that. I have a path. I have a history.
So Sarah, did your partner where did he go to school?
He went to DeVry and then San Jose State for library school.
Has he ever seen the campus of Rowan University?
No, that's on the to-do list.
I was going to say we have to add that.
Yeah, there's been a lot on the to-do list because he's just never really been to the East Coast. So, it's like getting him to, my family's from Brooklyn, so we had to get him to Brooklyn. We had to get him to North Jersey. We had to get him all the pizza so he could be convinced that New Jersey pizza is better.
Yeah, we've got to do that. He's got to see and you've got it. When was the last time you were back here on campus?
2016, maybe. It looked very different when I was there.
It looks very different from then, even, I would say. Yeah, it's changing quite a bit, and it's very exciting. I feel like with us, because we're here every day, we probably don't notice it as much. But then when our alums who haven't been here even for just a few years come back, they're like, "Oh wow, that's new," or that looks great. So it's pretty cool. Sarah, what advice do you have for current students and their path and what that could look like?
I think that if an opportunity pops up, just take it. You're so young, you don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. So if you have the opportunity to like move or, someone offers you a job that you're like, I don't know about that, just do it. I worked in a golf museum for a year. That was fun. I knew nothing about golf, but I got to learn about archiving, which was pretty cool. I took a job in Kazakhstan on a whim, and it really changed my career path and my life. So I tell students all the time, like, take advantage of being young and unattached. Take whatever life throws at you. Just because you major in one thing, you're not stuck just in that line. You can take those skills and transfer them to other things.
Okay, Rob, let's test your Monmouth County knowledge.
Oh, I was going to say, is this know your Kazakhstan knowledge? Apparently I didn't know anywhere geography
You're not going to know Monmouth County
I'm not
knowledge
gonna know Monmouth
either. That's fair. But Sarah's super fun. You know what I love about college in general is that you might come in thinking you want to do something and you're like, this is my interest. And then you meet people and you are exposed to courses and you're like, I didn't even realize that I could do that or that was a job. Like It's such an eye-opening experience to attend a university or college and see like all of the opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, because I think you come in. So I think closed-minded as far as I'm going to do this job. This is what it looks like on the daily. But then you get exposed to so many other opportunities, which might take you somewhere else. You network, you might find somebody else that might pull you in a different direction that you never saw, But that's the great thing. I think Sarah gave some great some great tip right there at the end of our interview with her was just be open-minded.
Be willing to travel.
Yeah.
I mean, be more adventurous.
Would you have gone to Kazakhstan? Because I would.
No, I wouldn't have went to Philly.
Now, I like the cold, so that's the part that would, now the international side of the Kazakhstan, maybe not for me. Yeah. I would find someplace cold, maybe like Chicago.
Yeah.
Which would be a little easier to kind of fill that box, check that box. But
let's see. You always talk about maybe you want to move to London.
I would love to move to London.
Okay,
and that's
let's see it. I'm gonna track you for the rest of your life. And if you never move to London, I'll be like, well, you never moved to London.
I can't wait till I do this show with the next host and I have a British accent.
No, if you leave, then the whole show stays here.
Oh no, but I'm saying,
you know how this works?
No, but I'll be the guest, and I'll talk about my experience here, but I'll have a British accent.
Fair enough. Well, on next week's episode, we will interview Rob Lightfoot. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Beyond the Brown and Gold.
You've been listening to Beyond the Brown and Gold on Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM. You can find more episodes on your favorite podcasting platforms by searching for Beyond the Brown and Gold or Rowan Radio On Demand.